All right. So this morning we are going to, I thought that we could just go ahead and discuss what the biggest struggles that we had when we first started out in this online marketing journey, and also how we dealt with some of the objections that we received. And I'm not talking about objections from potential customers or clients, but more the objections that we faced from family and friends, because they're not always your biggest supporter when you try to do something new, especially something like this. That was sort of what I figured we would discuss today. So apologize. I'm just sort of trying to get things set up here. All right. So when I first got started in all of this, my biggest struggles were probably just trying to find the right kind of information, and also who to actually listen to, because there was so much information out there. And a lot of it was very hypey. So it was like, make 10,000 in like 30 days kind of thing. And I knew that that was not probably likely. And also, there was a lot of conflicting information about whether or not high ticket, low ticket, drop shipping, MLM, network marketing. There was just all these terms being thrown around, and so I had to really go in and do a lot of research to try and figure out what all that meant and what that would mean for me, and which direction I wanted to go with that. And even within just the affiliate marketing, the high ticket, the low ticket, the recurring, again, these are all things that I had to sort of take into consideration. And I didn't necessarily do enough research when I first got in, because I was excited by the idea and the concept of it, because I didn't want to go back to work full time at another job for someone else. Because for me, when I got started, it was very much a case of I had been a manager, and I was a creative fulfillment manager for a marketing firm. And then when that company dissolved, took me a while to find another job, as I mentioned last time. And then I got another job, but then my position, or the whole department, was dissolved. And so then it took me a while again to find another job. And every time it took longer to find work. And every time that I did find work, it was like I was stepping down. And the last step down was when I actually moved across country, and then I ended up becoming a customer service agent, which is fine. I didn't mind the work, but the thing is I went from manager to telephone customer service representative, and took like a $15,000 pay cut. And I just noticed that the older I got, and the more time that every time that I tried to find work again, it became harder, and it didn't correspond with what I had originally done. You go from a manager to just answering phones, and not by choice. That can be very, very frustrating, especially for when you get older, because you're like, I've put in all this time, I've put in all this energy, I've put in all this work, and now here I am, almost like I'm starting all over again. I realized that when it came time to try and find work again, I didn't want to go and work for somebody else and just go further and further down the line, because I've already done that, right? That experience has taught me that I need to work for me, because working for someone else, I'm not going to get the jobs that I want. I'm not going to get the positions that I feel that I deserve, that I have the experience for, because I'm not young. And that's no slight against the young, but the people who are hiring, they won't outwardly say that they're being ageist, but they won't hire or promote someone who's older, which is a little crazy to me, but that's me, right? I'm looking at that going, if you hire somebody in their 40s or their 50s, they're probably going to stick around with that job, but they don't want that. They want the 20-year-olds and the 25-year-olds who are just coming in, and because they think they can shape them and mold them. But the reality is that the young people understand that 2 years, they're out. they're moving on, if they stay that long, depending on whether or not they get what they need. When you're older, you usually have a lot more responsibilities, and so you tend to stay with things a little longer. But, that's their loss. And so, anyway, with all that information in mind, I didn't want to go back. And so I really needed to try something that would put me in a position of being responsible for my own future and not relying on companies that are going to downsize or close up shop. So I faced some hurdles in the beginning because I didn't do my research, because I was so gung-ho on the idea of being responsible for my own stuff that I didn't do enough research. And I really think that that's important when you're starting out in this space, is to really do your research and decide what is the best format for you in the beginning, because that may change as you go on. But in the beginning, you definitely want to know, what's the best way for you. For some people, that's going to be high ticket. Now, that's what I do. And actually, I did start with that, and then I moved into recurring. Now I'm back to the high ticket, although I do really like the concept of recurring. Recurring income is just simply like Netflix or Prime or any of those where you have a subscription to it. And that can be whether you're in the education industry or if you are selling health and beauty aids, all those kinds of things. A lot of them have a subscription option. So, and what that does is that just provides you with a consistent income that you can sort of count on. As new people come in, some people will fall off, but you will have a more steady income. High ticket is one of the ones where your sales are providing you a much bigger commission. So you're affiliating for someone, and what you're getting back is a much larger commission. So you don't have to sell as many in order to make that income. Low ticket is obviously low ticket. So that would be like Amazon or something like that, where you're affiliating for someone and you're only making a few dollars. So you have to sell a lot more. But for a lot of people, selling something more tangible and smaller is easier for them because they can easily use the product and share the product and understand and provide better information for it. So it really depends on what resonates best for you. And there is no problem once you get going having a little bit of all of it. But usually when you start, you want to be able to pick one and then learn that and focus on that. So in the beginning, that was my big thing, was finding the one that worked for me. Like I say, I've gone back to the high ticket because money. And also I really believe in my program, so that helps a lot. Some of the biggest struggles that I had at the beginning was mostly just finding the right information for me, because there is a lot out there. So one of the key things that really helped was finding the right people and asking other people, what do they like, and who do they believe in. And everybody's going to have their own coaches and whatnot, but you can go around and just be a fly on the wall and pay attention, join some groups, listen to what people are saying, and then find who resonates best with you, because not every coach is going to be for every student. What works best for me might not necessarily work best for you. The other obstacle that I had was my own self-doubt. You come into this and part of you is like, yeah, I can totally do that. And then once you start dipping your toes in, you're like, holy crap, this pond is huge. And you might not necessarily feel confident in your abilities or think that you have nothing to say. And so that can really hold you back. And habits, again, are another one that can hold you back. A lot of times your biggest obstacles is yourself, right? You might not have the confidence that you need, or you might have some habits that get in the way. If you're a natural procrastinator, or if you're a pantser like me who likes to do things on the fly, that doesn't always work. Having a schedule does help. So those are some things that I found were a bit of a challenge for me. I'd love to know what your challenges are at the beginning. Anything, whether you're seasoned now and you have some skills behind you and you know what you want. Oh, it looks like Rose has popped by. So I'm just going to add her now. Good morning,
babes.
How are you today?
Are you? Can you hear me?
I am good. I was just talking about some of my obstacles that I had when I first started doing this. Some things that sort of got in my way, and just things that I kind of wish I had known or had done
Perfect.
better. So since you're here, and I'm just going to throw you to the wolves.
I love it. I am late. That's fair.
So, yes. So, what about you?
Oh man, there were so many obstacles.
Yeah.
Initially,
So,
yeah, mental obstacles. There's a lot of I don't know if I can do this. I've
stop
tried
it.
this before. It hasn't worked. A lot of that, and then just there's a massive information out there, and it's all marketed well to make it seem like you're going to succeed instantly. And so kind of going through the different verbiages and kind of figuring out what stuff was really saying and determining what programs were actually worth it was a huge one.
Yeah, and that for me exactly the same thing between my own self being my number one obstacle, and yeah, the just the plethora of information that's out there. It's easy to get swamped. Yeah.
Yeah. And,
So how are you?
$7 courses or whatever. Great.
Oh my gosh, yeah. There's only
It's
like
been a busy
8,000 of
morning
them, yeah.
already. Yeah, exactly. It's like, it seems like a small investment until you've gone through about 10 of them and then you're suddenly out $70. And each one
Yeah.
is promoting a different software that you need or funnel builder that you need. So then suddenly you're spending 500 a month on what was supposed to be a $7 course. And then if you need any assistance, they're like, okay, we'll buy this package for $2,000 and you'll get 5 one-on-one calls or whatever it may be. So I think that's why a lot of people are just like, well, screw it, I'll do it on my own and then suffer because the
Yeah, and
program. Oh, go ahead.
nope, go ahead. I was going to just agree, and it can be so overwhelming.
And the program makes it sound like you don't need that kind of stuff, right? They're not honest about it from the get go. And for
Yeah, the bait and
10% of
switch.
the people, they probably don't.
I mean, most people, if you talk to a lot of people who have been in this for a long time, a lot of them actually did try to go it alone at first, or took like a really, really cheap course at the beginning and then sort of tried to go it alone. And almost, in fact, I don't think I've ever heard anybody who's actually been in this for a while and who is doing well not say that what they eventually did is they went and got themselves a mentor or coach, and suddenly their business changed, right? I think
Yeah.
that every one of them has said that, and every one of them has continues to actually hire a coach or have a mentor on tap for themselves, even though they've gone on and they've reached their goals and their highs that they wanted to reach. They still continue their education. So
Yeah. I will say the plethora of coaches that reached out to me via like Facebook Messenger and whatnot was also a lot. And a lot of them were just, they were coaching Facebook organic, which fine, it works for a lot of people. It doesn't work for me because that's not what I want to do. I don't want to live on Facebook. I don't want to be messaging people every day. And so I was like, oh, cool, but like you're not coaching what my vision of my business is. You're coaching what works for you, which makes sense. But I'm not going to hire you for that because, oh, just add 10 people on Facebook a day. I know I'm not going to do that. And I know I'm not going to do that because when I started real estate, that's what they told me. It was like, grow your friends list, make sure everybody knows you're a realtor who's like into the same interests you are. And I was like, yeah, I bet. And I joined all these groups and I never reached out to anybody because it's not my style.
I do understand. Yeah, no, and that's why I said, like, you've got to find what works best for you, because what works best for me isn't going to be the same as what works best for you, right? It You do try to find your group. Some people are more Instagram, some people are TikTok, some people are like no social media at all. They do it all through email marketing. It really just depends on what works best for you. So yeah, the research part is actually pretty heavy at the beginning, just trying to find what aligns with you, because it'll save you so much time and stress down the line.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think I wasted probably, well, I didn't waste, but I think I probably misinvested, let's say, probably about $6,000 in themes that in hindsight, I might as well just spend that on solo ads because it did about the same, you know? I might have had a
Right.
little bit better
Yeah.
luck with solo ads or something like that. And solo ads are another one that they sound great, but if you're not dealing with someone who actually has some ethics behind their list or anything like that, I have a guy right now that I fully believe is going to help get me where I want to be. But that's after going through probably testing 20 solo ad vendors and getting talked to by probably 1,000 at this
Oh
point.
yeah. Yeah.
And I'm mean to them when they first pop into my inbox. I'm just like, what do you want? And this guy, I was mean to him. And I apologized later. I was like, look, I'm sorry. I'm not like, I know I was mean in the beginning, but oftentimes too, it's not that I'm trying to be mean. It's just that like I'm in a hurry and I'm just like, oh, you're another one. And so like my responses are short. And so the tone doesn't reflect in text very well. So he was like,
No,
I just figured you were busy and in a hurry. I'm like, okay, cool.
somebody understood my tone. Yeah. Yeah, we
It
need
seems to work
different
out for
fonts
me.
for all of that for tone. Absolutely. Italics doesn't necessarily get everything across. So
It's
yeah.
like that is exactly how I am. Because like when I first met my significant other, who I've been with for like 5 years now, I was
Mhm.
really mean to him because I was not looking for anything romantic.
You're like,
He
no,
remembers
go
it
away.
differently, but yeah, it's just my go-to. It's not so much mean; it's just like to the point.
Kurt isn't necessarily mean. It's just, it's not warm and fuzzy. So
Yeah. Well, my sister taught me at a young age, don't give out more information than necessary. And I kind of like have carried that too far into my life, I think.
my sister talks to everybody. My sister is the friendly one of us. Like I had lived in Vancouver for years at this house, and I didn't really know my neighbors at all. She
Mm-hmm.
comes over to visit one day, and she knows my neighbors. She knows the name of their dog. She's like knows what their plans are and all the rest of this. And I'm like, I wave at them if they're lucky. So
Yeah,
I
when I bought my house, someone had said, like, oh, yeah, go introduce yourself to the neighbors. And I was like, as long as they're quiet, I don't care who they
Yeah. Yeah. And it's weird because when I meet people, I'm very friendly. When I go to conventions and stuff, I'm super friendly. I'm outgoing, I talk and everything else. But yeah, as soon as I'm in my environment, get away, people.
Yeah. Well, and especially in the online world, because again, there are so many people that do Facebook organic, and there's so many that do it wrong. And it's just when you've heard the same script 100 times, it's really hard to maintain that, like, oh, how are you? It's just like, oh God, here you go. Like I've
Yeah.
responded to a few of them, been like, oh, this is your coach, isn't it? And they're like, how'd you know that? And I'm like, same script, dude.
So yeah, no, and I don't blame them because I mean, we all start somewhere, we all learn, and then we grow from there. So depending on where they're at in their journey, as long as they're willing to grow and willing to learn and figure out some of that stuff. But yeah, at the beginning, it's hard because you are brand new, right? So you're going to take what you're taught and you're going to try to implement that, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's the best option or the best way to go, but a lot of times you don't know until you try it.
Yeah.
Trying and failing, that's sort of the whole process. um, did you find a lot of objection from like friends and family when you first started doing this? Did you get a lot of that?
I don't know that I got objection so much as I tried for the longest time not to put it on my Facebook profile. One, because my Facebook profile is mostly about real estate anyway. And I've always been the one in the family who like is willing to try different stuff and whatnot. So like I could hear certain members of my family talking to my dad and going, I'm sorry, she's doing what now? Okay, kind of thing. But I was talking to my sister about it. There's a quote that I absolutely love that says, in a family full of black sheep, I'm the scapegoat.
You're
And that
what?
kind of the scapegoat.
Oh.
So I was like, yeah, like my family's all kind of out there. Like me and my sisters are pretty similar. But I'm definitely the one who's like, I don't call people very often. And like the few times I have reached out to some family members, like I haven't really responded. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to beg for your attention. I will write people off, family, friend, it doesn't matter very easily. It's just how I am. And so that's kind of happened with a few family members. But so I don't really talk to them. And so they'll call my dad or they'll call my sisters and be like, well, what is she up to? And they're like, I don't know. I call her. And so I knew there was going to be that. And I knew that, you know, once I'm successful, they're going to be like, oh, crap. But getting to the successful stage is,
yeah.
right? Getting to the successful stage is going to be a lot of like, oh, you're still trying to do that kind of stuff. So I wasn't too worried about it. I didn't really talk to my significant other about it. I just kind of started doing the classes and you know, all of a sudden had new profiles and whatnot. So he doesn't really know the full financial spectrum of what I've invested into this, but you know, he celebrates the small commission wins and stuff with me. So, and he's helping grow the Pups YouTube channel. So he gets it. We'll probably have some affiliate links on there. We're hoping to do a print on demand store with the Pups logos.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, he's supportive in his own way. But I've always been the kind of person to just do something. So I didn't really talk to them about it. I did expect some snarky stuff once my other profiles started growing, but pretty much all my family followed those as well. And then my sister at one point texted me and was like, how many accounts do you have? So I told her, she's like, oh, cool. I went through and followed all of them. So they've been supportive in their own way. But again, I didn't really go down that path of like, hey, by the way, I'm doing this. I just kind of started putting it up on the social media. So
sort of the same for me in that sense. I have a couple of accounts. I have one that's more my publishing and whatnot for that. And so when I decided to get into this, I had already had this account set up and it wasn't really doing a whole lot. I think I set it up when I was decided to go into MLM and then stepped away from it. So it was here, it existed, but there was no activity really on it. Just a lot of birthday messages every year from like the ghost, but aside from that, not a lot. So I figured, oh, well, I'll just dust it off and I'll pull it up. But yeah, so I keep the publishing one pretty separate, just because when I started doing the publishing, I had my own people like, oh, what are you doing? And so like, are you writing the books? No, I don't write them. I publish other authors. Oh, and it's horror. So that was always, you do what? And so when it came to this, I was already seasoned enough from the whole of what you publish horror and you don't actually write. And I was okay with, so I had a little bit of a thicker skin when it came to that. I still get a lot of like, so what exactly is it that you do? Yeah. And like from people who don't understand affiliate marketing or whatnot. And it's just a scam. It's a Ponzi scheme and that sort of stuff. And I have to really break it down and go, well, and they're like, oh, well, that's products. They're selling products. I'm like, so am I. It's a different product, you know, like guitar teachers, and you go to college and spend a crap ton of money there to learn the things that you want to learn. So this is the same thing. It's just a different education is what I'm selling. So that's all. Sir, I know my husband had a hard time figuring it out at first. But because he was asking me and then looking it up, now he's getting inundated more and more with work from home videos and stuff on his phone.
Yeah.
But he is getting a better understanding of what it is and that it's not just products and that sort of thing. So he's becoming more supportive and just he asks me more about what's going on and stuff like that. I'm still not the best at sharing information because I didn't tell him when I started either. I just did it. Because I've been on my own since I was like 16 years old. So just doing it is just sort of how my default setting. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad raised us to be fiercely independent women, and yeah, we are.
Are you all just sisters?
Yeah.
I have a sister, and then I have a little brother that's like a decade younger than me, and then I have another brother that I don't like. He's in BC somewhere. I don't really know him that well because he's like a half brother and was raised separately from us. But yeah. So.
Yeah, I've got two older sisters. I'm the baby. And then I do have two older stepsisters. But I was a senior in high school and my dad got remarried. So it wasn't like we grew up together or anything like that. They're really cool. It's just again, I suck at calling my blood. I'm not gonna go above and beyond to call it anybody else. So.
Yeah, I got some, yeah. It's Family is interesting. Family is definitely an interesting thing. My sister, she's an artist. And so she understands the whole working for yourself thing. So she's actually pretty supportive of what I do in terms of, you know, popping on, giving some likes and sharing some information that way. But she's lived off of her art pretty much her whole life. So she
Nice.
understands, because people will go, "What do you do?" "I'm an artist." "Well, do you have a job?" And she's like, "Artist, right?" It's a job. It's a real job. So
Nice.
but,
Yeah, my oldest sister currently team truck drives with her husband, but they're about done. And she very much is like, I don't, she's like, I want a job where I don't talk to anybody. I don't want to do customer service. I don't want to, so a lot of what I do is to translate to getting her, her dreams. And my overall goals are to retire my mom, retire my SO, and then have the proof of whatever to get my sister rolling and get her doing it so she can just work from her castle in Washington and whatnot. And then, potentially my middle sister as well. She makes really good money as a hospital administrator.
stressful
But
job.
hers isn't too bad. But I know that like some stuff's happened recently that's really pissed her off. So I think she's looking for something else now. So, and that's kind of my main thing is like, let me make the mistakes. Let me, do the misinvestment and whatnot so I can teach others or help others build up that business without misinvesting the money that I misinvested. Because like none of it was wasted because I learned something.
No,
I hate,
I understand. I love that perspective too, because we can easily fall into the I lost or I wasted or, but the reality is, did you learn something from it? Were you able to grow from it? Because if you were, then you didn't actually waste it. You just didn't invest it where you wanted it.
Yeah.
Didn't give you the returns that you expected. You just got different returns. And, as long as you grow from it, then it's actually a good thing.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the things that I really liked with the solo ad guy that I was working with, because like most of them, it's like, okay, like here's the thing. And I'm like, cool, I got no freaking sales. And they're like, well, that's your fault. And I'm like, and whereas this guy was like, hey, do you know this is going on with your emails? And like, do you know this is happening? Have you tried this? And those are actually helpful. And so I've got him working on a separate project for me now, actually paying him, obviously. But I have faith that it's going to work out because he knows what the hell he's talking about. And he's actually able to give me the feedback of like, hey, you might not have made sales, but here's why. And even with the landing pages, if I send him like the ones that I can't change, he'll be like, hey, can I give you a few pointers on this? And I'm like, well, I can't change that one. It's from the program. He's like, oh, okay. So I'll send him like a different one. I'm like, here's one that's actually mine. He's like, cool, make these little changes. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I have. And
awesome.
But that's just, again, it took a lot of different vendors to go through that. And yeah, exactly. And I think you saw my review on Lead Hero and how that went down. Like that's what I'm used to dealing with. So it was really refreshing.
I like your reviews. They're honest, man. They're straight up honest, which is great because a lot of people will blow sunshine in hopes of something. I don't really understand why. Like, if it was bad, just say it was bad.
Yeah.
But
or
if it had some good parts,
but
was and some bad parts, again, just be honest. Let people know because it helps the beginners make better choices.
And what works for me isn't going to work for everybody else, and what didn't work for me is going to work great for other people. I mean, Jonathan Montoya started with Legendary Marketer, and I think that's where he took off. And I'm like, that's great. I made 30 cents with them. Yeah, because whenever anybody would ask me if they should buy the blueprint, I was like, didn't really help me, but
exactly. And for me, it was the same way. It was like, I'm not going to tell you that you shouldn't buy the blueprints, but I will say just figure out if it's the right fit for you, not because you're being pushed, not because they tell you that you have a limited window or you're going to lose the benefits or whatever thing like that. Figure out, is this the kind of training that works best for you? Because not everybody can just watch a bunch of videos and get on a coaching call with like 500 other people and get what they need. right? Some people need more than that, and or some people just need different than that. And so you have to really know your learning style and what works best for you. And I didn't. I'm used to learning things on my own, so I figured, yeah, I can totally do that. But no,
Yep.
no, I can't. I for something this big, I wanted more somebody I could just go to and ask questions and get
Yeah.
feedback right away and have it be more personal. I'm not really huge at having big, massive group calls because why you don't even know if I'm there or not, right? So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure. When the changes rolled out, and I was talking to Brian about the changes that were being made, and I was happy as hell that he was charging for what he's worth.
yeah,
I think for a long time he didn't. And then that's the theme with Brian, is that like I have no problem telling people like, oh, you need a coach, this is your dude, because he's been so helpful. He helped me get my YouTube monetized. He's helpful in ways other than just, oh, well, you need to sell my coaching and be an MMO and whatnot. The group is so much more like, oh, what do you want your niche to be? Okay, cool. Or like, here's what you should go search, or like, here's where you can find affiliate programs, rather than, like, oh, I don't know, that's not my niche.
yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the reasons that I really like Brian too, is that I can honestly say it doesn't matter what niche. Yes, you can resell the program if you're like be an affiliate for the program itself while you're trying to build up your stuff if you want to. But you don't have to. If you're like, no, I really don't want to do that. They're like, cool. So what is your niche? Let's figure it out. Let's see how we can best support you in your growth in that niche. Which a lot of programs, they'll tell you they're going to do that from the upfront, but then they don't. Um, and Brian, yeah, he's super helpful. And, he'll give you a kick in the ass when you need one, which is nice because you can sit there and say, oh, I've got all this information, but not do anything with it. And he'll give you a kick in the ass and say, well, what have you done? And, put some of that responsibility back on your own shoulders. But at the same time, he does it in a way that doesn't make you feel, like you're useless. He does it in a way it's like everybody struggles. So let's get you back on track, which I love.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I've been blatantly honest with him where I'm like, I'm not, he's like having conversations with me today. I'm like 0, and you know that. But I experiment with Facebook ads. I experiment with YouTube ads. I experiment with other stuff that he's like, wait, you're going to get at Facebook ads? Maybe we can talk later. So like,
yeah, because
it's beneficial.
Absolutely, because he's also open to hearing what you have to offer from your own experiences, which is great. Right? Because again, a lot of people are very closed off. They figure I'm the teacher, you're the student, so I can't learn anything from you. And we all know that that's bullshit. So, right. So, if you could go back in time to beginner you, what would be like what would you tell yourself, or what piece of key information would you impart to yourself and say, and fucking will listen?
I think I would say build your email list as you go, but not necessarily driving traffic to it. So I think where a lot of people struggle with email marketing is they start sending traffic to a link without having the email autoresponder actually built out. And one thing that I've learned that I didn't really know to begin with was not every email. One, you don't have to email them every day. People will be so irritated to be emailing them every day. But yeah, exactly. But 2, not every email has to be a pitch. So, you could have 2 weeks where you're just sending either like, hey, I use these free tools and they're awesome, or like, hey, this is my story, or hey, this happened today and it made me think of how it applies to building a business. Like, it doesn't always have to be links.
I think that's super important, actually.
Yeah. And then I would say don't get a domain through ClickFunnels. If you're going to buy a domain, always go through GoDaddy or something like that. Because I screwed up and got mine through ClickFunnels and then removed my ClickFunnels because it was a $100 charge a month I didn't need. And I'd unfortunately paid for my domain for 2 years. So now I'm kind of stuck without a domain. And I think if I had a domain, some of my email authentication would go through a little bit better. I mean, I could buy the domain from, ClickFunnels for like $60 or something like that. I just have it. But yeah, those would be the two main things that I would tell beginner me.
Well, and those are great things, right? Because, when we get started, you hear you have to have a list. You can have a list. Do you know how to grow it? And do you know how to work it? And, maybe building your list and learning those things before you spam your list is not necessarily a bad idea. For me, do your damn research. Go back and just because it sounds good doesn't, I know you don't want to go back to work, but take your time and pay more attention. Don't get caught up by the hype is another big one. And honestly, yeah, man, if I could go back to the very beginning, I probably research would have been probably my main thing. Do more research. And yeah, again, build your list, because I have not built my list, and it's one of those things that I'm doing now, but man, it would be nice if I had actually done that at the beginning. But again, research, and get a coach that aligns with me. And yeah, I would have done that right from the get-go and if I had done my research and done that first, I probably would have saved myself a few $1,000s. It's not that I didn't spend money to get a coach. I just would have saved myself money initially that ended up not being what I just taught me what doesn't work. So
yeah, I've had a number of times I've gone through my list and just deleted contacts because they were inactive. But I think that I probably would have had more active contacts had I done it correctly.
And I mean, there's a lot of things out there where you can buy lists and stuff like that, but that doesn't mean that they're good lists, right?
No.
Yeah.
Well, and sometimes
I'm
those
glad that you
will
were
get
able
your
to show up
autoresponder
today.
banned.
We don't want the autoresponders banned. No. And it's not as hard to build out your autoresponder as you think.
No, it's super easy.
Especially when you've got tools like the AI to help you. You can ask it for, some sequences, and then you can build out under that. And, and like you said, it doesn't have to always be selling, which is huge. I think people think that they have to be selling with everything that they put out there, especially when you're at the beginning. Your whole concept is sell, sell, sell. But part of your selling is building up trust and confidence in who you are. So that means sometimes that you're going to share anecdotes, or you're going to share tips and tools and that sort of thing, right? It's not all just buy my shit. I think that that's a big thing that most brand new affiliate marketers need to learn, is it's not all about buy my stuff. And it's easy to get caught up in that whole buy my thing.
It is.
And then you spiral, and then you wonder, like, why is no one buying my thing? It's because that's all you ever talk about. If your friend came over and said, try my coffee, try my coffee, try my coffee, every single time you saw them, you'd be like, go away. Stop it. Leave me alone. I don't want to watch that movie anymore. Go away.
Yep.
So I'm really glad that you were able to make it. I was a little concerned, not gonna lie.
Sorry.
But I figured I can carry on without you.
Right. Well, I did the ice bath. I was like, okay, I've got just enough time to get changed to get down there. And then I came in and the dogs had gotten into the chicken.
Ooh.
So I had to deal with that, and then I had to remake Nachi's breakfast and get her out eating breakfast. And then by the time I got down, it was like 7:10. I was like, crap, Donna's gonna kill me.
Kids. Yeah. I figured you've been so busy this last week, right? So I figured, whatever. She'll get here. I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm gonna start without her, and she can join when she's ready. All right. Well,
it has been a crazy week. Hopefully next week's not as crazy.
Did you get a coffee at least?
Yes.
Okay, good.
I'd heated that up before I jumped the ice bath. So
excellent. Can't have a day without that. So anyway,
Yeah.
that was really, I think we covered a lot today.
Yeah.
We're actually 15 minutes longer than I had anticipated. So there you go.
Woo.
Yep. Anyway, that was it. That's all. If anybody has any questions or comments, just want to say hey and show some engagement, we'd love to hear that. We'd love to see that. And we will be back again next Friday. Same bat channel, same bat
Yep.
time,
Yes,
9
ma'am.
a.m. on Fridays. Come join Rose and I.
Yes.
All right.
See you, Dawna.